Well, hello there, everyone. Here to show you right here is like the terms of service, and basically that this right here talks about is like a document right here, electronic document, basically like a policy about the terms of service. And I'm sure that we have gone through, looked over a lot of these, kind of these examples right here of like between experience and then what should you do, just to be able to use the online services. And I know that which most programs and online services that they have it where that you would you click accept on the terms of use of the service. And usually that whenever we look very carefully at some of these that we may think and notice about that it talks a lot about that installing a software or a program to where how many PCs and operating systems can use it. But one of those really I'm like have you all looked at it to where that how many of them that really talk about is like to where that yeah about anything that's related to that you will no longer be retrieving the paper documents and just like thinking about going to the file cabinet and then pulling out a paper form copy of something and then compared to checking it online and thinking that well in case of performing maintenance or maybe power outages or something like that we may want to where now how are we supposed to access this. And nowadays with like battery backup power for like the mobile devices as well as the laptops, you're like thinking about, yeah, you may still have access to this, but on your hand, that like for security measures. But on your hand, that you're like wondering to where the terms of service is that really that do most of these terms of service talks about too much about privacy reasons such as how they are shared and then how that they are worked and managed. But I know that they have documents that they have about at least 25 or so pages of what they explain for what all the services that they use. But then they automatically say is to where that they may go on about for about maybe 10 minutes about what all that they do use it on their online services and et cetera, et cetera. But one of those things more likely be is to where that yeah, do they charge extra just for the extra security and just for the extra services. And if we want to call it like the standard service, compared to like any other package that we want, and thinking necessarily to where that yeah, that if you want to make a biz, that you make a deposit of about maybe 20% on an account, and then after about maybe a few days or so, everything goes well, like you may get reimbursed or something like that. But let's just say for any insurance companies, they may say that that if you have a coverage on your insurance plan and an incident happened and you're thinking that yeah, well, you're covered because you got insurance, but then they may tell you that oh no, there's a misunderstanding that you got to pay for that first, then you get reimbursed. So I'm sure that miscommunication more likely happens to almost everyone. I'm like, especially with me though, that I pretty much had to look at something over and over just to clarify that just making sure that well on a it's like a making sure that we're on the right on the right page is like for anything that's for like confusion as well as understanding those type of parts. But on the other hand, that thinking about is like keeping everybody on the right track here is that to talk about say the terms of service that we're like warned to where that that there may be details mentioned about how many how many PCs and then about the use of the service and then for tech support stuff like that. And anybody that may want to where that maybe the one reason to why they want to go ahead and sign up to be able to get their stuff electronically is that necessarily because that they are capable of using that correct operating system, or is it because that they think it's cool? And you're like Warren to where oh well you find if you find something cool and interesting, then I'm sure that maybe somebody else maybe could find out, or if anything that if you want to share your thoughts about it, whichever. But there may be a number of reasons, of course, but one of those could be it's like for save, and then as well as for experience. That I don't know. I'm like, do people more likely think that 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 they want to go ahead and maybe get something printed out on paper just because it looks neat, or that they are capable of using the terms of service? that, like, well, you may have heard about the terms of service before, but then people may say you save money, you actually have access to more stuff. It's like an online manager. If you want to manage your own information, then it works just like a snap. That you can go ahead and log on to the online site and have access to your information from there. But then some that may say that, yeah, well, hopefully that you won't have to pay a service charge or anything like that. And with like anybody that may say that you may see these advertisements a lot of times for terms of service. Please sign up for electronic this or electronic that. But then do they mention anything about $5 a month? And sometimes that you may say you may get that message after you signed up, to have the term, for terms of service. But just to make sure that everybody's on the right track here is just thinking about is like whenever we sign up to have a for any services, is that for a service, if it's going to be paying a bill or anything like that, is to make sure is like that, yeah, that for the terms of service, and whenever you're using the terms of service to where it may work a little bit differently compared to what you used to. One of those is be like, they'll probably be sending you notifications by email if it's by, on the phone or any other type of electronic device. And it may be like an email that you may not get onto or you may not use every day, that there may be a notification on there. So it just seems like, yeah, technology has pretty much changed a lot of things. And at the time, you're like Warren to where that why is it that we all don't get paid 50 cents, per day just to learn this stuff? But then on the other hand, it's like, well, if you want to call it maybe reimbursement or credit hours or anything like that. But on the other hand, too, it seems like to where that anybody say if you have a new idea for a new invention such as of how to save, you can go ahead and share it below. But then you're like saying, well, that may be a problem because anything that maybe I find out and discover, that more likely I'm going to go ahead and have it written down or somewhere on an off pocket or something like that. But anyway, talking about right here is like what the credit card though is like examples right here is that. But on the other hand, that you talk about, say, for the terms of service, is that the main reason to why people want to go ahead and use the online services. One of those could be it's like, that they are capable of learning that process, or one of those could be it's like, well, just to keep updated, or everybody else is using it. Join the club. Everybody else is using it. So why shouldn't you be using it? So the way I think about it, though, I'm like, yeah, I did, write this and place these type graphs, for terms of service, and you're like Warren to where you have right here is like example right here of a mouse pointer, and you're like thinking about that. Not all the time you have access to a pen and paper, so that anything that more likely says like between agree and accept or anything like that. To where that you're like Warren to where I don't see my name anywhere on this document, but then somebody say, oh, it's there. There's like a little symbol right here that represents the person that's using it, and you're like Warren to where that I mean, here's the thing about they're trying to get a whole understanding about the terms of service. For anything that I use, is that if they collect any type of payment method, or if it's anything about the experience, to where that yeah, are you familiar with the electronic service? And you're like, well, just to kind of study about it, but I think I can get the hang of it. I think I can understand the basics about how it works pretty easily. And then by the time you do it, and then you're like thinking about that yeah, it takes you, it kind of flips the whole direction around to where it takes you on a new learning path. Having to get used to the fact about you got to open up the file document first, or you got to download it, and this is how you receive the new notifications, stuff like that. So there's a lot of things, difficult challenges seems like for learning something new, and you're like Warren to where that you mainly got it, you mainly start using it just to check it out. And some that may say that, well, to join the club especially. So you're like Warren to where that a lot of things that maybe you may see maybe coming later on in the future, and you're like Warren, yep, just to feel part of the group, just to join the club, you're going to go ahead and sign up for electronic alerts, especially for weather updates or anything like that. But so far as the terms of service, and so thanks for watching.